to say one final goodbye.
Watches and handbags were amongst items seized in a major search in North Dublin yesterday. Designer clothing, almost €16,000 in cash, a camper van and a low-loader truck were also discovered in the multi-agency operation on Stockhole Lane. A man in his 30s was arrested and released, and he'll appear before the criminal courts of justice next month. A leading Irish homeowner is building a leading Irish home builder is creating 200 new jobs in Carlow. Nua Manufacturing, which has been established by Glenveigh Properties, officially opened today. The house builder says it will increase its overall delivery capability and accelerate the supply of new homes. Tony McLaughlin, director of Nua Manufacturing, said the opening of the facility in Carlow is exciting.
Carlow's a fantastic location. It's really accessible. It's got fantastic access to the motorway. It's got a really good college. It's got a fantastic local authority who are really driven and proactive and encouraging.
And finally, a 3-year-old boy and 11-year-old girl are among 4 people found dead at a house in Hounslow, West London. Police say the bodies of a man and a woman in their 30s were also discovered at the address. Officers believe they were all known to each other. It's 3:02.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Best birthday present ever. Give a Ryanair gift card.
Cloudy with widespread showers turning heavy and thundery this afternoon with the chance of some spot flooding, some sunny spells as well. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you as always until 5. This is Football Saturday now all the way. We're going to have Gary Breen on the line shortly, but also on the line at the moment is David Connolly, the former Republic of Ireland striker. We'll get to David in a moment. Just to let you know, you can text us 53106. The line is open. Tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation as well. You can listen on News Talk. Also watch us on the Off the Ball digital and social channels for Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube and on Facebook. So the Republic of Ireland's hopes of qualifying automatically for the European Championship in Germany next year via Group B they look all but over really via the group following that 2-1 defeat to Greece and Athens last night. Stephen Kenny's side were outplayed. Callum O'Dowd conceded an early penalty which was converted by Tassos Bakasetas. Then Nathan Collins levelled from a set piece, but Greece scored what proved to be the winning goal via Georgios Mazouras early in the second half. Matt Doherty was sent off near the end of the game. Greece were the better team. No argument with that. More fluent in terms of passing, 19 shots to 7, 6 shots on target to Ireland's 3. 4 wins now in 23 competitive games for manager Stephen Kenny. We will not be qualifying by the group, you'd have to say. We're 26th in the Nations League rankings. We ended 10th in Group B, so we have to hope enough higher ranked teams qualify automatically to squeeze one of the 12 playoff spots now, the alternative route to qualify for the Euros, for the 3 remaining places at the finals. It might happen. It looks tight, but it's probably Hail Mary stuff at this stage because we would need to win another 2 games. So Stephen Kenny's a human being. He's a very proud Irish football man, and I think that needs to be said at the outset. But obviously there'll be the discussion now around the management of the team, the project that we're on, because France was so good at home, but this was really bad last night, and we've seen it before. Only 4 competitive wins, only 2 away from home against Azerbaijan and Luxembourg. There have been these types of disappointing results before. The game at home to Luxembourg, the game at home to Azerbaijan, the game a year ago against Armenia in the heat, and a year later this game against Greece and Athens. And Greece were seen as pretty much on a parity with us in the group, and now with the French going to top it and the Netherlands, who are not playing too well at the moment, in the mix as well, it's going to be very difficult for us to get through as part of the group. So David Connolly is on the line. David, before we get into the nitty gritty, what are your initial thoughts of what you saw last night?
Hi John. I mean, I think it was a tough watch. The lads look very flat, very, very flat. Ironically, they started, and I heard Stephen say this after, but maybe he felt it was the kickoff when he said they started well, because the kickoff, right, was the same kickoff they used against France. And I thought, bang, here we go, we're straight at them. This is a good sign. This is a sign of we're going to be on the front foot here, and we're going to put on a good performance. But I mean, after that pre-rehearsed routine, we were just so far off it. Greece were a lot sharper, a lot quicker. Moved the ball a lot speedier, switched the play, made our midfield 3 cover the whole width of the pitch, which is impossible for the 3 to do. And Stephen spoke about the switch of play. Well, the switch of play was on because of the midfield 3, so flat. I mean, there's too much space for them to cover. Callum O'Dowd had a very difficult night. Really, really difficult night. He struggled defensively. We didn't get across. We didn't cover the spaces for the second goal. We couldn't defend corners. It was a really bad day at the office. We got back into it with the goal, which was a really well worked corner routine. Really plays for Nathan Collins, but yeah, it was a really bad performance and lacking in an awful lot of areas. And I guess there'll be a massive inquest about it, John. But one of the things would be, and look, there's something in this in terms of the last game, say, of the championship season, six weeks or whatever. But kind of, I think Stephen knew this was always going to be the case, right? That gap was something you had to plan for. And how are you going to plan for some players who I mean, Michael Obafemi, for example, has just about played 90 minutes in 3 months. I totaled up his minutes. He's played like 100 and something minutes in 3 months. So, he's not the only one. Obviously, Matt Doherty's struggling for minutes, 12 minutes, whatever he's played. So how are you going to get the sharpness into a lot of those players' legs that haven't had game time and you've had a 6-week break? The four-day training camp, in hindsight, right, I'm looking at this, if I was the manager, what would I have done different, John, right? What would I have done different to arm myself, to prepare myself to play against Greece, who won 6 of the last 7? Well, I tell you what, John, I'd probably put on a game. I'd try and get a game in, because I think a 4-day training camp, John, is not going to be enough. Is nowhere near going to be enough. It just seemed that like we were badly prepped for it. It looked like the lads had a few weeks holiday, a few days tickle around in a training camp before going to play Greece in their backyard, who won 6 of the last 7. And, we looked like we were miles off it.
And also tactically, it would look like we were exposed on the wings, that they played a 4-4-2, they pressed high, they had their 4 players out on the wings, and we really suffered for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, John, we've touched on this before, right? I'm not a fan of the back three, so I'm not going to sit here and be wiser after the event. It's not my favoured formation. Often at times, you saw us last night, and we had like all 11 players in our own box, clearing the ball, getting up to the ball, and look, okay, against France we did quite well, but for me, I think it can be exploited quite a lot, the back three, because the way they played, they made the sort of back three, they made our back three into a back 5 in effect, and our midfield 3 had to cover across the whole width of the pitch. That's why the switch was on. That's why they attacked and were able to get at us out wide, and they looked just a lot sharper. I thought for the second goal, if you really look at the second goal, and I know Callum got done in behind with a movement, but the point of a back 3, John, right? Your back 3, and I'm sure Gary Breen will touch on this later. He'll know better than me, but that back 3 can't just be fixed in the box, 5 yards apart, almost touching hand. You look at the second goal. For me, Lenihan has to get over and recognise the gap between him and his wing back is far too deep. I mean, far too big. It's like you could have driven 2 double-decker buses into that gap, and we just didn't recognise those spaces, those gaps quickly enough. And if you don't play a back 3, and you keep your back 4 nice and tight. So I thought the second goal, although Callum got done, I thought Darragh Lenihan's got to get across and recognise that the space between him and Callum was too great anyway, was far too big in the beginning. And you just got to keep the distances a lot tighter, a lot better. But it was symptomatic of the performance. Like it was really bad.
We've got the listeners in touch here, David, 53106, just going to read out some of the flavour of the comments. Was a massive Kenny fan. I was massively behind him, but I think he's gone now after last night. 3 years, it should be better. It's not even the defeat, as I think people who thought we would win in Greece don't know football, but the manner of the performance has lost me. There are much bigger issues in Irish football, and I see that as a schoolboy coach, but that's for another discussion. It's probably time to move on, but I do think he's done a lot of the heavy lifting for the next manager, says Colin. I've been relatively pro Stephen Kenny, says Carl in Cork, but I think it's become apparent. He's out of his depth. I'd like to see him go now. I'm all for good football, but losing football is essentially bad football. As to who should replace him, realistically, I think the best we could hope for is Chris Hughton or Owen Coyle, but ideally Brendan Rodgers if he doesn't end up at Celtic, says Carl. We need to look deeper at Irish football, multiple leagues, underage and adult football. We need to streamline better. Those involved in moaning about Stephen Kenny are the same ones who will not fix amateur level first. Dave from Dublin, Kenny's had a Euro playoff, 2 Nations Leagues, a World Cup and a European Championship that have all ended in failure. That's more than enough time. Cut our losses after the Gibraltar game. And Kenny Backer here, but time is up. He doesn't have the know-how to take us to the next level. The players are playing like a group who don't believe in the manager, says Adrian in Limerick. Look, the inquest, as you say, has begun. And it's the juxtaposition, I think, from the France game when we're playing the World Cup finalists. Nathan Collins has a chance with an unbelievable save, the best we've ever seen at Lansdowne Road from Magnan, and it would have been 1-1. And we played well against Portugal, we played well against Serbia, but then you throw in these clangers, and that's the problem. You just don't know. There's no consistency building, and that's what I find difficult to understand.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd say, John, right, where's our strength at the minute? Where is our strength?
Yeah.
Where's our strength? Well, for me, it's Evan Ferguson, right?
Yeah.
Evan Ferguson is our strength. And I looked at Evan last night, and I thought, Ireland were trying to play like Brighton do, and at times, dropping it into Evan, as happens with Brighton, either along the floor or into his body, it just wasn't happening. And at times, I would think that there is nothing wrong with going long up to Evan and just relieving the pressure. I looked at near enough every goal kick was taken short. And I think in game, just recognising that the lads weren't at it, and it wasn't, we weren't playing through the thirds very well. Just to go, you know what? It's from the sides, because there was a little drinks break, and I know Keith Andrews called them in, and But what if it was me? We've got our sort of Erling Haaland there, and we're not getting in the ball. I'd just be getting it up to Evan, and it's not old school. It's not route one. I think that's our strength, and there's no point having that strength if by the time it takes us to get the ball to him, we've lost it numerous times. I mean, we were turning the ball over so often, and you just think, just get it up into Evan. Maybe he can relieve the pressure, get us up the pitch a little bit, and we can play in their half. And I know Stephen's principal man, but it just felt like we needed to just mix it up a little bit and just get Evan in the game a lot more.
Well, I mean, you ask us what the strength is. You ask me what the strength would be. Like in the France game, was always defensively organised, one lapse from Josh Cullen, but that can happen. But defensively, very solid, very committed, very good shape, and backs to the wall. And then for the last 15-20 minutes, you have a go. Maybe we were too open last night because defensively we were shambles, and it just felt like when I watched the game, David, that they were just so much technically better on the ball in terms of passing the ball.
I mean, look, I think the onus being at home, obviously playing against France, massive game. I think the tactic, everyone got it. We got it spot on, right? And even Stephen, I think we could have said he might have been able to go for it a little bit earlier, but you obviously don't want to risk opening yourself up and conceding more. But the lads did. They carried that game plan to perfection. Make no mistake. Here, whether it's a combination of the time, the last game, just say the championship game, right? For example, 6 weeks or whatever. That period is just. I don't know whether that's had any sort of bet, or whether Stephen could have done anything different in that period to prepare these players to go and play a game of this magnitude, knowing that they're up against a really good Greek side. Now you're sort of comparing France and Greece. Okay, all right, but Greece have played really, really well for a number of weeks. Won the Nations League group. They've obviously Tsimikas. We can keep going about their players. The lad at AZ scored bundles of goals this season. They're a good team, and they showed last night they're a good team. Going to these countries, as we did for 10 odd years, and Gary Breen will tell you, is never easy. Going away to the ref was giving them, I thought, everything. You had the lasers in the eye. This is the siege mentality of Ireland going away and digging in and being hard to beat. But we looked so flat that I just wondered if there was anything Stephen could have done in the interim period, or select start players who've got more minutes under them to put in a more dogged performance. Because it looked like the lads, like for example, starting Adam Eder. I mean, was that because Adam turned up last time and Norwich ruled him out? But Adam's barely played. You know, a lot of the lads have barely played, so it's very difficult to throw him into a game of. I know Will made his debut, but he's non-competitive. To chuck him in second game, maybe it might away from home in that sort of atmosphere, environment. It might have been a little bit too ambitious.
Yeah, 53106, another texter, Noel. I've always supported Kenny, but last night, who do we think we are? We played away to a team in a similar position in the world rankings and what the really impressive results in the last 7 games. With an attacking team, ? We're not nearly good enough to do that. A solid team similar to the team that played France was required, and who knows, we could have snatched something on the break. Not too dissimilar to what you're saying now, David.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not too sure the 2 up top was the right thing to do. I think you only play a 2 up top if you've got 2 in form, 2 strikers who are in form.
Yeah.
And I think you know, at Brighton, look, Evan doesn't play in a front 2, but he almost plays as another midfielder at Brighton, and they get him on the ball, they get him a little bit deeper, and then another attacking midfield helps him out up top. But it looked a little bit too ambitious yesterday. Yeah.
Kieran Boyle on Twitter, we're in desperate times. Trapp, Stan and Kerr were booted for less. Another campaign over before it begins. Can't be defended anymore. Why doesn't the FAI have a shirt sponsor? Who's investing in this crap? Experienced manager needed now, don't care who. Kind of an angry text from Kieran. JD, given the pro Kenny camp are now resigned to the fact his time is up, what are realistic expectations for whoever succeeds him, given the squad we have and the level they play at? What are the realistic targets for future campaigns? But what about the argument, David, that as Liam Brady was making on RT television last night, that this is like probably the poorest group of players in terms of quality he's ever seen?
Yeah, and I listened to that, and look, you know, when you know, there's not too many that are like Liam Brady, so he's in a nice position there to, you know, but the lads are. What's available is kind of what's available. I think.
I suppose the question is, could we be doing better with the players we have available to us at the moment? Yeah, exactly. Okay, could he? Yeah, that's a different question, right? Because, you know, saying they're the poorest group of players is one thing, but, you know, can we get more out of the players regardless of their ability? That would be. I mean, look, the lads like Stephen, and I'm not going to bash him, but you know, the results kind of speak for themselves. You know, probably the performances have always been about for Ireland being able to produce against the Hollands, the Frances of this world. You know, it's then beating those sides like even the Lithuania we struggled to open up, and you know, obviously Greece last night. There's been numerous examples where, you know, we probably really struggled to beat those teams that really, if we want to have a chance and the pressure's on us to go and beat, we haven't really done that. So I think traditionally we've always done quite well or put up a really good performance against those sides, albeit maybe losing against your Frances or your Hollands, or, you know, giving it a good go. But, you know, like, I don't know, Liam, I mean, he knows Mikey Johnston, but, you know, he knows where he's playing. But, you know, talking last night as if, you know, who I wasn't too sure he knew who he was. But, look, it's easy to bash them. I understand that because we're not Liam Brady, but and not too many are. But yeah, it was a difficult watch. What you're saying is, who else could come in, right? You're probably going to ask that next. Yeah. Well,
who else?
Not immediately. We'll come to that in a while, and that's like a hypothetical question because Stephen's got a contract for another year, and like it's not up to us to decide. And this is not about. I don't think. I think there are bigger issues in the manager, who the manager is. But let's actually hear from the players, because like Matt Doherty was defending Stephen last night. Nathan Murphy was in Athens, and he caught up with some of the players who were understandably lost for words when things went wrong. We'll hear from some of them, and we'll also hear from Stephen Kenny. But let's hear from Matt Doherty now after the final whistle.
I'm at a very tough night. How do you sum it up? Obviously very disappointing, you know. We had a good camp, we prepared well, and we didn't really show up.
Why is that? After, as you say, it felt like a perfect preparation, only a couple of players missing through injury. How quickly into the game did you realise this wasn't going according to plan?
Oh, pretty fast. I think I don't know how many corners they had in the first 10-15 minutes. Yeah, pretty much straight away we knew that it wasn't going well, but we thought we would just stay in the game, and we kind of did that till half time. We went in a half time level, so the start of the second half again, we didn't get going at all, and it was just a frustrating game.
And was it the heat? Was it the way they set up tactically?
Well, it wasn't the heat, no, for sure. It wasn't that hot tonight. tactically, like nothing we didn't expect. They managed to switch the play well in the first half, to cause us a few problems. We changed that in the second half, and I don't know. It's hard to nail down what exactly went wrong, but we're gonna have to obviously watch it back and figure it out, because that's a game that we shouldn't be losing.
There were dangerous moments when you got in possession and attacked, but it did seem as though they targeted the two wings for the real overlap, and that you had double trouble there. They made the pitch very big. Tsimikas was on the outside, he was on the inside. From your point of view as a wing back in a game like that, was there anything you could do when you look back on it?
No, you just have to, I don't know, just get the ball, don't give the ball away, wait for the right opportunity. Me and Will, we've been playing well together, linking well together in training in the last game, so look, the lines weren't necessarily there to kind of get in behind every time. So yeah, look, we tried to change it in the second half, and like you said, the winger who normally was inside stayed wide quite a lot. He tracked me, we had 2v2, we tried to slide the ball in behind them, but they defended well, and we lacked a bit of spark tonight.
Does it make you question what you've been doing over the last 10 days?
No, not at all. We knew how to beat them, we had the right way to beat them, and just we didn't, as players, carry it out in the 90 minutes when we were meant to, when it matters most.
Because I think a lot of people tonight will be very confused as to where that performance came from. There seemed to be, even though it was a defeat against France, an awful lot of positive signs out of that. I think a lot of people will look at that and feel it's a massive setback.
Yeah, well, we feel that way. That's a game where we thought, well, for me personally, I thought in going into the camp, at worst, we would get 4 points, you know. So we've just made things a bit harder for ourselves. But yeah, like, it's happened now. We've got to obviously beat Gibraltar and then win the next two games in the next camp.
You said the heat wasn't a factor. What about match sharpness? You obviously haven't played a huge amount of football over the last few months.
No, but I think everybody's in the same boat, kind of going into the summer camp. Players have had time off. Players have been on holiday. I haven't been on holiday. I've been training since we finished our season on the 4th, and I was into camp on the 5th, so I feel pretty good. Got a little bit tired at the end, but physically I felt okay.
What happened at the end of the game?
I don't know. I think the referee gave him a soft free kick, and then I looked up, and the guy was like walking Mikey down from behind, I think it was. I don't really know. I just walked into him, and he went to the ground, and the ref obviously lacked a bit of something, because there's 2 seconds left in the game. It wasn't really a red card. I don't think it was probably a yellow. So I don't think it was necessary to send me off.
Was there anything said then at full time to him?
No, I just wanted to talk. With referees these days, they don't even let you speak to them. They're so arrogant and sure about themselves that you're not even allowed to approach them and have a normal conversation. It's always about them, isn't it? So yeah, he wouldn't even let me. I guess people always think when you go up to a referee after a game that you're going to abuse him, but I wasn't going to do that. I just wanted to talk to him normally.
3 years into Stephen Kenny's reign, there's going to be a lot of question marks about his future now as Ireland manager after a performance like that and a setback like that. What are your thoughts on his future?
No, for me, it's nothing to do with the manager or the coaching staff. We just had 10 days of a great camp. We've been coached well. They've done everything possible for us. Behind the scenes, they do everything possible for us. That's not the problem.
What is the problem?
I don't know necessarily what it is, but it's not the coaching staff. Stephen and Keith and John O'Shea and all of them. They've been great since they've come in. So yeah, for their future for me should be to stay on, and I don't see why they wouldn't.
Thanks for talking to us.
David Connolly, Matt Doherty there speaking to Nathan in Athens last night. A lot to pick out of that interview.
Yeah, I mean, pretty honest there from Matt, and I think going through himself, he's obviously I've got sent off for Ireland, so I know you got to take the responsibility for that. But Matt seems to think that the training camp went well, and they were well coached and had a good session. I'm sure they had lots of good sessions, but my point is, could they have had a game rather than just a 10-day training camp. There's nothing that can give you the minutes in the legs to go and prepare you. I just wondered whether that was just that in hindsight, I might look back on that and go, we should have had a game instead. But a lot of the things he's saying in terms of, hard to put his finger on why they struggled. I mean, look, the formation that Greece play, it's certainly against Ireland's back three and three in midfield, is to get the ball, switch it out wide. Callum really struggled with the runs in behind. Every time they could, they were making those runs in behind. He really struggled with his positioning defensively, and obviously paid the price second half. But Matt's not going to go and critique or hammer his own teammates, is he? He's obviously wants them to stick together because we've got another game in a couple of days' time.
Yeah.
So you've obviously still got to stick together because you've got the Gibraltar game coming up.
But if we don't win that, I don't know. I'll give up.
Well, yeah, but I mean, once you pick the bones through the goal, once you do pick the bones through the goals, it sometimes it is okay. Look, we didn't have a Bene, we didn't have a few players, but whatever's gone on with Ryan Manning, for example, we don't know, selected, then he pulled out. But obviously Callum O'Dowda really struggled down that left hand side. So I think probably in hindsight he might look at his left wing back area and think, well, did I get that right? And also I think he mentioned about working with Will Smallbone, but Darragh Lenihan and Callum O'Dowda, that relationship, I think left side centre back in the back three, without being too tactically boring. The outside centre-back and their relationship with the wing-back is so important, because if you're too close to your centre-halves, you've got a lot of area you're giving your wing-back to cover on the inside, especially on the inside. And you look at the second goal is a disaster. Totally avoidable if, for example, Darragh Lenihan comes over and covers a cross. Like, we had a 3v5 in the box. Greece had three players in the box, and we had 5. And that is where Darragh's got to recognise that I've got to shuffle over and help Callum. Even Evan was in the box. He could have called and just closed that gap up a little bit more, because, I mean, they had like the freedom of the park, but that is your bog standard how to defend in a back three. It doesn't mean your back three hold hands 10 yards apart. You've got to adjust to where your wing back is and keep those distances nice and tight. And they just got in between the gaps far too easily. And look, I'm not a defender, right? I'm not a defensive expert, but I know from my time in coaching and tactically that was a huge mistake there at the back for the second goal.
Were we too slow to change our shape and change our formation?
Well, possibly, yeah. I mean, look, I think he made the call, which was probably the earliest to do it at half time in terms of, or shortly after with Callum. But I think, I think against the opposition that you're playing and the way that you're playing, we did have the little drinks break. Maybe that could have been done within the little break where, Stephen had that time to call them over. I know Keith spoke to them. I don't know what was said, but maybe that might have been the time. Yeah.
How do you inject composure into something? Because when I was looking at this game last night as a hurler in the ditch, as I know your hurling background, David.
Don't talk to me about composure, because I was watching the Kilkenny game last week. I mean, no. I was taking a photo of the screen, just about to tweet something, going brilliant, and then obviously we kicked the ball straight into them and lost it right at the death. So yeah, that composure, as we saw last week, right? We saw that last week. Yeah.
But is there a leadership thing there? I mean, just to slow it down, because it was just so crazy it was just frenetic and helter skelter the first 15 minutes. Is there a way to we just gotta cool this?
Well, the only thing you'd say in those times, you would have had a lot of leaders. When I played it might have been just settling down a little bit old school. Right, we squeeze up the pitch. We get everyone 50, 60 yards higher up the pitch. We play in their half. If we're not playing well, we can't get through. From the defensive third to the middle third. If we can't do that, let's squeeze up the pitch and get it up to Evan. It's not like, you've got Duffer and Robbie and you had to play along the ground. You got big Evan, big Adam Eder, get the ball up to them, and maybe just playing the opposition half. Normally, when you're not playing well, that is what you would be saying from the sideline. Scrap playing out. We're really struggling to keep hold of the ball. You're inviting pressure onto us, but we just didn't seem to do that yesterday.
So that maybe strikes me as something that there is a traditional Irish way which people have, been very critical of. They call it hoofball, caveman football, very unattractive on the eye. And Stephen has been trying to have a progressive style and a passing style of a game. But sometimes you need to throw out that and get into the realpolitik of look, it's all about what's on the end of the scoreboard at the end of the game, and that's not losing.
I think you can mix it up because you can obviously mix your game up. I mean, often at times all the top teams mix their game up and play different ways to get up the pitch. We won't go into loads of detail about how you can do that without just crashing the ball long, obviously. But the point is, if you're not playing particularly well and there is another way, there is obviously another way. You need to get it up to, if you're going to play with a front two, they need the ball and get it up to them. It's different against France, right? You look at how Evan was dealt with against France. He had massive hulking centre-backs. Physically, he was completely dominated. Not dominated, but he was given a really tough game because physically they're all over him. We never really saw that last night because we just didn't get the ball up to him enough.
Stephen Kenny, let's hear from him now after the match in Athens. So Ireland under Kenny, they've only beaten Azerbaijan and Luxembourg away from home. And he still maybe lacks a statement performance outside of Lansdowne Road to get the fans back on side and believe in the project. Let's hear from him now.
Well, I think we didn't play as well as we would have wanted to play, for sure. It was Greece were a much better side in the first half overall. They had a lot of control, more than we would have wanted. They played well, but really that can happen away from home for international teams throughout. But you've got to defend better than we did, and you've got to see it out, and we didn't do that, and that's what's hurt us in the end. We got back into the game well with a well-worked goal, and 1-1 at half time. We tactically changed it, and that would have allowed us to play with more control, 3-4-2-1, and it did in the second half allow us to play with more control. But we can't take any credit for that, because certainly that wouldn't have to take into account that Greece would have dropped off a little bit after scoring. So it was just a really poor second goal to give away. I can't believe we gave it away, to be honest. And we got punished for that. So that's hurt us, because so that's the reasons. That's it.
Damien Swan, Stephen, this always looked a really tough group to qualify from. Does this result make it near impossible?
It's only the second game, and we've given ourselves a mountain to climb. All right, it's only the second game, but we could just, at the moment, we're just going to get ourselves ready for Monday. We've a home game, nearly full stadium. If we want to support the team, we need to give them a victory on Monday, and that's what we've got to focus on.
Stephen, how you doing? Just judging by the team that started tonight, it seemed that there was some very close calls there to make in terms of starting 11. Any regrets on the team you put out?
It could be argued that there's a lot of inexperience in the team. That can be argued. I have to accept that. But no. It's easy after the event if someone makes a mistake to say you should have played the other player or whatever. But I think it's I feel even though our performance wasn't at the level we would have wanted, we were still right in the game, right till the 95th minute, and had chances to equalise. Obviously, Nathan shot, Matt shot, a lot of crosses across the box, a lot of corner kicks. And we had a lot of pressure, but not loaded with clear-cut chances. And we were still in the game right to the end, and could have drawn the game, but it might have flattered us a bit, but I think we the players never go up, and it's just very disappointing with sending off at the end. It seems extremely harsh. Matt's got involved to try and pull people out of it, but he's not touched anyone's face at all. It's just pushed someone, and it's nudged someone in the chest to get someone out of the way, and it's too much has been made of it. He's gone down there's no facial contact or anything like that.
Gavin Cummins, please, and then Philip Quinn, and then we'll end the live section.
Stephen, Adam Ida, and Callum O'Dowd had gone by 53 minutes. Is that, and I don't know, was the tactics not working out or strategy not working out? Because obviously Plan A was a very attacking team, and did it go badly wrong?
Well, it was 1-1 at half time, but we needed to establish more control in the game, and it was just obviously we got punished for the mistakes that we made. So we're disappointed to lose the game. I think I take responsibility as manager for that. I think obviously that's the reality. I do take responsibility for a game that we would have wanted to certainly not to lose, and so just that goal after half time absolutely shifted the balance of the game again, and more or less the first attack. So we're absolutely kicking ourselves with that.
Stephen Kenny there speaking after the 2-1 defeat to Greece and Athens in the Euro qualifier last night. David Connolly, former Ireland striker, on the line with us here on Off the Ball Saturday. There's no hiding place for a manager in any football job in the modern world, but the problem for Stephen Kenny is that it's one step forward, 1.5 steps back maybe.
Yeah, and he was, you could tell he was struggling to find the right words there, because I think he knows, whatever he may say, if it's the wrong thing, could be jumped on. So I think he was really struggling to find the right words to convey, because, the disappointment. Look, you're away from home, right? You play these sides as we played, and Gary will tell you coming up soon, 10 years or whatever. You go to these difficult places to go. If you're not playing well, you get back in the game 1-1. You take your medicine and you go, well, if we can get out of here with a point, that'll do us, and forget the ambitions of because you look at the side, right? I mean, Adam Ida hadn't started in 18 months or whatever it is. Callum O'Dowd probably similar, even longer maybe. Lack of goals in the team, put all that together. Was it an ambitious start in 11? Probably, right? In hindsight, probably way too ambitious start with a front two. Probably more pragmatic. He might look back and go, I should have been more pragmatic like I was against France with the one up top. I might have looked at getting a game in, because all the training in the world cannot replicate, some lads only having the odd few minutes here, there, and whatever. Now, I'm sure the lads will be better for the Gibraltar game, but I mean, he was struggling to find the words there, knowing that it would be seized upon. They were way off it, and Matt obviously struggled to put into words explanations for it, and so did Stephen. But I think a couple of things I've just said there would probably go a long way to doing it. A couple of positional errors, I think, in terms of who he selected, and a few tactical things, not about whether you play 3-4-2-1 or whatever, but as things develop on the pitch, where your players are positioned within that back three. Because look, we can talk about, say, Man City, right? Guardiola, do they play a back four or back three? Half the time they might play a back four, but one of those back four might end up in midfield, so they have a back three. But how those back three play those positions in a back three? And he mentioned the second goal, as I said. The second goal was awful, John. Absolutely awful. Forget the performance as a whole, because if you get out of there 1-1, you breathe a sigh of relief and you move on. What you don't do is make a glaring error like Callum O'Dowd did and Darragh Lenihan there, not covering across to make it easy for them to get a chance to score a second goal. And that was really disappointing.
David Connolly there on Football Saturday. We're back after this.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Lunchtime Live.
I would appeal to people not to be feeding seagulls in the centre of the town. It's a big issue and it has to be addressed.
Well, Michelle thinks it's over the top.
No, that's not true. All you have to do is come down here.
Is it fake news, Michelle?
There's seagulls all over the town. There's an invasion, has been over the last 10 years, and nothing is being done. So let the minister come to Garda, let him see the situation, let him address it.
Lunchtime Live with Andrea Gilligan. Weekdays at midday on News Talk. Conversation that counts.
The future is yours for the taking. When you become one of the 8,000 students across the island of Ireland studying with the Open University. Join the experts in distance learning on one of many internationally recognised degrees and skills-based short courses. And suddenly, your options are thrown wide open. Search OU Ireland to find out more. The Open University. The future is open.
Whatever you feel about his dad jokes.
A sheep walks into a bear.
Dad bod.
2 tickets to the gun show.
Dad jeans.
So roomy.
Dad rock. Dad dancing. There's only one legend you call Dad. So pop into Centra and make him feel good. Feel good, shop smart. Centra. Live every day.
Mum, hi. I'm at the Garda station, but it's nothing. I told this girl I was seeing for a while that I'd put shots of her up online. Shots she sent me, so they're mine, really. I only said I'd do it, but the guards are saying that's a crime now. It's not my fault, Mum. I didn't do anything. I only said I would.
Threatening to share intimate images is a crime with serious consequences. Contact your local Garda station if you need to report it. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
At Opel, we're half-full type of people, which is how we come up with the Opel 50/50 finance offer. Choose from the Opel Crossland, Corsa or Mokka. Select your flexible payment option, pair it with 3 years free servicing and meet your new other half. Discover more about Opel's 50/50 offer at the Opel Open Road event, now on at your local Opel dealer. See opel.ie for details. Finance is provided by way of a consumer hire purchase agreement by Bank of Ireland Finance. Lending criteria and conditions apply over 18s only. Ownership remains with Bank of Ireland until the final payment is made. Bank of Ireland trading as of Bank of Ireland Finance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
2 gig full fibre broadband from Virgin Media is rolling out to more homes across Ireland. Hear that, Aoife? Huh? Time to lose yourself in the latest Scandi crime series.
I have no idea what's going on here.
You should really put on the subtitles.
Fair point.
Whatever your genre, whatever way you play, Virgin Media is here. Switch today at virginmedia.ie or call in store. Virgin Media. It's playtime.
Subject to location and availability.
Taste of Dublin returns for 2023 to Dublin's beautiful Ivy Gardens this June 15th to 18th. Experience Ireland's best chefs, hottest restaurants, culinary masterclasses, artisan producers and incredible live entertainment. The ultimate fun foodie day out this summer on this weekend. Book tickets at tasteofdublin.ie.
Harvey Norman, your home of Miele. Shop our range of Miele products in store and online, like the Miele single oven with pyrolytic cleaning, just $1599. Or the matching Miele Combi microwave oven, now $1879. Buy both products and get a free Miele C3 complete vacuum cleaner worth €300. And with up to 36 months interest-free finance terms available, delivery and install and free recycling. Why shop anywhere else? The Harvey Norman Big Sale is now on. Don't miss out.
You're as confident in water as on land. You could definitely swim out to that rock. The rock you're being rescued from because you're too tired to swim back. Swim within your depth and stay within your depth. Better safe than sorry. It's National Water Safety Awareness Week. Search Water Safety Ireland for more. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Looking for a memorable getaway? Look no further. This summer, live the moment at Castleknock Hotel. Immerse yourself in our stylish rooms, unwind by the pool, savour mouth-watering cuisine at our award-winning restaurant, or embrace the lively ambience of our 2 sun-filled patios. And when it's time to explore, our prime location puts you right in the heart of the action. Explore more at castleknockhotel.com.
And Sean has just arrived into the bar for a quick hello to the work crowd. He won't stop, he has a match in the morning. But wait, he's got the nod off the barman that there's Guinness 0-0 on tap. The chats are back on. Johnny's in full swing and a fresh pint is handed over the bar. Guinness 0-0, 100% Guinness, 0% alcohol. Proud partner
drinkaware.ie. Off the ball. This is News Talk.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. The inquest has begun into the Republic of Ireland's 2-1 defeat to Greece last night in the Euro qualifier. Looking pretty bleak now in terms of our chances of going to Germany next year. David Connolly, the former Irish striker, is on the line. Gary Breen joining us after 4. You can text us 53106 just to bring up to speed on what's going on elsewhere. Tailteann Cup quarterfinals. Limerick 10 points, Laois 9 at half time of the Gaelic Grants. Meath play Wexford at 4 o'clock before we go off air. Offaly Tipperary also 4 o'clock throw in at O'Connor Park before we go off air. In the Ladies Senior Football Championship Group 2 Round 1, Donegal 2-10, Waterford 1-8 result, and Laois 2-8, Armagh 3-12 a result as well, Group 1 Round 1. In the Camogie Championship half-time, Cork 3-6 down 1-5. That was in Group 1. In Group 3, Antrim 2-10, Offaly 1-7 is a half-time score. Remember the golf, Rory McIlroy 8 under par at the midway point of the US Open in Los Angeles, 2 off the lead, held by Ricky Fowler. And Rory tees off about 11:30 Irish time, so if you're a night owl, you'll enjoy that. We have comments in here. Zan on YouTube, we had to break our backs to qualify for anything, even when we had a team that was full of Premier League players. Ryan Markey on YouTube, terrible performance, always reported Kenny, but tactics were non-existent. Unfortunately, time is up for Kenny. I'd like to see a manager come in like Lee Carsley or Ian Foster. Another one, 53106. I disagree. We needed to mix it up more. We had plenty of long balls last night, either inaccurate or poorly controlled by Ida, especially poor execution in all aspects of play last night, says one of our texters on 53106. Another one coming in, until we get a world-class midfielder or two, we'll find it very hard to compete. Cullen's a good player, but he won't be Premier League standard. Mulumby's not international standard. There's only so much Bazunu, Collins, Egan, etc. can do, but no midfield. We've got no chance. But Josh Cullen was one of the best players in the Championship last season, wasn't he, David Connolly? Burnley have been promoted, but the pass completion rate last night was very poor from the midfield. Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, he just had a bad game, and he often got in the way. I think he cut out or tried to control a pass that wasn't meant for him at one stage, if you remember. And I forget who tried to switch the play, but he just he was uncharacteristic, I guess, in his play. He was disappointing. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was had something to do with the break. I mean, we've seen, let's say, Man City and Jack Grealish have, a few good nights celebrating success. The lads, obviously, at the end of a season would go away and have a holiday.
Is it hard to rise it again? Is what I suppose what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, I guess I am, and that might be a mitigating circumstance, and hopefully the lads will be better against Gibraltar. And like I say, if you dig in and come away with a 1-1, you probably take that on the chin, because look, I think Stephen alluded to the issue of this anyway, like going back when he named the squad for the training camp. I think he alluded to the fact that there's a long break between the end of the Championship season and the game in Greece, i.e., we've got to really consider and get this right, because this is a situation that we're in, which might impact on our performance levels. Because look, any manager, you want to be playing regularly, or the players want to be playing regularly, and maybe in hindsight you put all that together and go, would we have done played a game? Would we have selected different players? And even the selection of say Callum. I know Callum O'Dowda because I worked at Bristol City and Callum was there. I've known Callum from my time at Oxford. Callum is a winger, and that is why wing backs are a hybrid of a winger and a fullback, right? But I think you kind of away from home, he might look back in hindsight, and he obviously decided that after 50 odd minutes or whatever that it wasn't working, and he might have think now I should have played a more defensive minded player away from home. So I think it was the attacking lineup, 2 up top, maybe the adventurous wing backs, because some wing backs are more defensive minded and some are more attacking, and Callum was always a winger. I known him at Oxford when, I don't know, was that 10 years ago probably, when I went there on loan, when I was 35, 36, 37. He was just a youngster coming through. He was always a winger, Callum, and he's very powerful. He runs all day, but he's had to adapt and try and learn to be a defender. But he's not an out-and-out defender, and you saw that yesterday. He got done a couple of times. But, maybe in hindsight you would think, I should have selected a more defensive, maybe defensive-minded fullback, maybe, instead of Callum.
The Ashes, England were, at Edgbaston, 393 for 8 declared, and they've reduced Australia to 188 for 4 now. So England definitely in the ascendancy in the first test in that one. There were bad days with Mick, obviously, David. Like, you failed to qualify for the Euros in 2000 when we were in a really good position to do so. Like, how will the players be feeling now? It'd be pretty... I know, like, I just think, like, Gibraltar are one of the worst teams in Europe, so we're probably going to beat them, and it's a nice little boost, but they must be feeling pretty ropey today, just mentally.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, look, make no mistake. We're not here. I'm not here to hang the lads out to dry. But I mean, in those days, it was a bit harder to qualify for tournaments. Although we probably were a few seconds away from doing so a few times. But look, they got to pick themselves up, and the good thing is they got a home game against the weakest team. Which in some ways you think, well, is that a good thing? But I think it is. The pressure will be on to go and win, but I think you would rather have that. And as I said, a lot of these lads will have a game in their belts, which they, you just cannot replicate. Like, for example, as I touched on there, going through the minutes that, say, Adam Eder had going into this game, right? He had 34 against Blackpool, 25 against West Brom, 45 against QPR. He did get a goal. Obafemi Michael Obafemi's had 105 minutes at club level from mid-March to the end of April. 105 total minutes, that is, John.
Yeah.
Total minutes. That's about one game he's had in the best part of 2 months. More, So it's difficult. It's very difficult for Stephen. But you would say, well, why play Adam then if he hasn't really had the game time away from home? But as I said, I hope he wasn't clouded by Adam turning up last time, because you sometimes you've got to make tough decisions, right? And you've got to go, well, I know he turned up last time and Norwich was saying he wasn't fit, but and it's great to have lads like that, but away from home it was the wrong call to play two up top.
So it was a case of you got to play everybody who's almost had as much time as It's so. I think you've got. We've said this numerous times as well, John, because being Ireland manager is probably it's unlike probably any other biggest job in this country, David.
It's unlike any other job in. Not too many jobs in football like this. For lads getting regular game time is very, very difficult, right? For who to select. So you've got to be so skilled, because some players might be able to play without playing a lot of minutes. Some players you might be able to rely upon them playing, even though they haven't had many minutes at club level. So Matt Doherty, they're saying our season finished whatever it was a couple of days beforehand, but he's been training, he's bang on it. Maybe Stephen goes, I can trust Matt, although I know he got sent off, whatever, but put that to one side. I can trust Matt, although he hasn't been playing regularly. I can trust him that he's been doing enough to put enough in the tank that he can go and start in an international competitive game for me and deliver. But maybe for some others, that's not the case. Like as a centre forward, maybe for Adam Eder, he needs to be playing regularly to make that ball stick, for his touch to be good, all that sort of stuff. Every position, John, and every player is nuanced. You can't just throw a big blanket umbrella over everyone and go, well, you haven't played enough minutes, he can't play. I'm not saying that, but as a manager, that's your ability as a manager, right? To Stephen, to recognise who can and who can't deliver for me, or when they're not playing or they haven't had a game in a long time, or who can play for me, like in that way. A bit like at club level, can you throw players in who've been out injured, who haven't been playing? Some do, some you can't.
Okay. David Connolly, thanks so much for the last hour, and Gary Breen will be joining you, your old sparring partner with Ireland, for between 4 and 5 to reflect on the last night's defeat 2-1 to Greece in Athens on Football Saturday here. If you want to get in touch with us, you can tweet us at Off The Ball, you can text us at a cost of 30 cents and 53106. We'd love to hear from you. Is this the end of the road for this current Republic of Ireland project, or do you still have faith that we should stick with the team, stick with Stephen Kenny, and move on to the next game, which is Gibraltar on Monday? We're back after the news.
News Talk is on the move, and we've got Volkswagen to thank for it. Our new car partner has provided us with electric vehicles, so we're ready to take on the roads. Turn heads with the all-electric ID5 SUV Coupe from Volkswagen, official car partner of News Talk.
With Toyota's incredible hybrid electric range, you don't have to change the way you drive to make a difference. Drive in electric mode 50% of the time on average with no plugging in. Discover the range at your dealer today, including the Toyota CHR and Yaris Hybrid, and see where Ireland's best-selling car brand will take you. Available now for July delivery. For flexible payment options, see toyota.ie. Toyota, built for a better world. Terms and conditions apply. Best-selling claim based on latest published monthly figures.
The summer sale is now on in all Brown Thomas BT2 stores and online at brownthomas.com. Discover more with up to 50% off your favourite brands. Brown Thomas Summer Sale, the one you've been waiting for.
InsureMyVan.ie. Hi, I'm Ken Doherty. For all van drivers and business owners, InsureMyVan.ie is Ireland's low-cost van and commercial insurance specialist. For high-quality van and all commercial insurances, call InsureMyVan.ie.
City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as InsureMyVan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
We all want to live in a more sustainable world, so let's start by living in more sustainable homes. SSE Airtricity makes it easy with the Generation Green Home Upgrade. Our award-winning one-stop shop initiative partners with experts in insulation, heating, solar, windows and doors to make your home more energy efficient and cost-effective. We do all the hard work for you with end-to-end project management and a streamlined SEAI grant application process. Discover your home's BER rating at sseairtricity.com/home upgrade and see how a Generation Green Home Upgrade can benefit you. Registered with the SEAI for home energy upgrades. Grants offered are provided by the Government of Ireland through the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland.
It's all about Dad this Father's Day at Dunnes Stores. So treat him to something extra special with a personalised e-gift card. Choose a photo of Dad or someone he loves, whether it's you, another family member, or even the family pet. Upload your photo and we'll add it to his e-gift card. Buy and send a personalised e-gift card at any time, or you can even schedule it to land in his inbox on Father's Day. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms, conditions, exclusions and minimum spend apply.
Your cat probably loves all the typical cat activities. Heading out for a drive, getting their nails done, and walking the red carpet. Keep them living their best life with Gain Elite Cat Food. Proudly Irish and formulated for 9 life living. It's got all natural ingredients, recyclable packaging with pro and prebiotics for digestion and immunity. Gain Elite Cat Food. Available at premium pet stores nationwide. Special offers available in participating stores. Terms and conditions apply.
Calling all out-of-contract Virgin Media customers. Switch to Air Broadband this summer and save up to €420. Experience amazing 500 meg speeds for just €34.99 a month. Sign up today and get €50 off your bill. For more, call 1-800-500-300, go in store or visit air.ie. Air, Ireland's #1 broadband provider. Subject to availability, 12-month contract. Ireland's #1 broadband provider based on Comreg market share. For full T's and C's, see air.ie/save.
The Harvey Norman Big Sale continues. Shop our cool cashback offers from Siemens, like the Siemens American Fridge Freezer with beverage drawer, now $3,429. Claim €250 cashback. Or the Siemens Larder Fridge, now $849. Claim €50 cashback. Pair with the matching frost-free Siemens Larder Freezer, now $849. Claim €50 cashback. And with up to 36 months interest-free finance terms available. The Harvey Norman Big Sale. Don't miss out.
Go!
Have you noticed that you or a loved one experience cardiac symptoms like chest pain, palpitations, or shortness of breath? Blackrock Clinic has a new acute cardiac assessment service that's available to anyone with these sorts of symptoms. You don't need an appointment to speak to our consultant-led specialist team. Don't delay. Call us today on 1-800-911-985. Check website for opening hours. Put your heart in our hands. Blackrock Health. Better together.
And Sean has just arrived into the bar for a quick hello to the work crowd. He won't stop, he has a match in the morning. But wait, he's got the nod off the barman that there's Guinness 0-0 on tap. The chats are back on. Johnny's in full swing and a fresh pint is handed over the bar. Guinness 0-0, 100% Guinness, 0% alcohol. Proud partner of the GAA.
Visit drinkaware.ie.
On 106 to 108 FM, on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud and Smart Speaker. This is News Talk.
It's 4 o'clock. I'm Lindsay Dolan. Good afternoon. The funeral of Christy Dignam, the lead singer of Aslan, has taken place this morning in his hometown of Finglas. The singer passed away at his home on Tuesday at the age of 63. A procession lined the streets of Finglas so residents could say their final goodbyes, with some lining out since early this morning. This woman travelled from Roscommon to pay her respects.
Massive part of my life. Like, it's the end of an era in a way. I'm so sad. I'm never going to see him live and seriously see him live in concert again, and yeah, it's kind of sad.
Pensioners and local authority tenants will not lose their medical card if they rent a room to college students. The government have approved the extension of the income disregard for the rent a room scheme, which now also extends to its local authority tenants. Fine Gael Senator for Limerick Maria Byrne said it's positive for students and pensioners.
The good news is that social welfare, education and health came together. People who want to rent a room to students or to their next door neighbour or to whoever can rent a room for up to $14,000 a year and have that income disregarded.
Watches and handbags were among items seized in a major search in North Dublin yesterday. Designer clothing, almost €16,000 in cash, a camper van and a low-loader truck were also uncovered in the multi-agency operation on Stockhole Lane. A man in his 30s was arrested and released, and he'll appear before the Criminal Courts of Justice next month. A 3-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl are among 4 people found dead at a house in Hounslow, West London. Police say the bodies of a man and a woman in their 30s were also discovered at the address. Officers believed they were all known to each other. And finally, a Kerry deputy is leading a petition to save the chalk ice. Frosty fans are protesting on social media after HB announced it's discounting its frozen favourite because of falling sales. Deputy Michael Healy-Ray is appealing to HB to reverse the shock chalk news.
People have the power to do anything in life. If we leave enough chalk ices, they'll be there for us and for future generations. And I'm sure that HB will be delighted. But the only way we can convince them is by our buying power. So I would hope that everyone will have a good weekend this weekend and eat as many chalk ices as you can.
It's 2 minutes past 4.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Get on your bike to the Cycling World Champs in August with Ryanair's low-fare flights to Glasgow.
Cloudy with widespread showers turning heavy and thundery this afternoon, with the chance of some spot flooding, some sunny spells as well. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
And this is Football Saturday on News Talk until 5 with John Duggan. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation as well. You can listen on News Talk across the country. Also watch us on the digital and social channels for Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube and on Facebook. We also podcast the show on the Off the Ball section of the Go Loud Network every week. Also available wherever you get your pods. David Connolly's been with us for the last hour to reflect on the Republic of Ireland's 2-1 defeat to Greece in Athens last night. Also joined on the line now by the former Republic of Ireland defender Gary Breen. Gary, how are you? Good to talk to you.
Good afternoon. How are you, John? It's been a while.
Yeah, and you, Gary, and your old sparring partner. Did you not share a room, lads, David and Gary, when you were your roommates with Ireland?
For far too long.
David, who annoyed each other more, yourself or Gary?
Oh, definitely David annoyed me more, without a shadow of a doubt, as he does to most of his teammates.
Yeah, I think... they were probably the best days of our lives, really, playing for Ireland, rooming together. Although, Gary probably had the short straw rooming with me because, we're like to married couple. But we had good fun. We had really good fun.
It was great. It was a great time in terms of playing the dream come true. It's well documented now, John, isn't it? That David and I are the type of guys brought up in England, in London, in very Irish culture. So for us to fulfil a dream from such a young age to play for our country was just it was everything we hoped it would be and more. And it obviously capped off by playing at the biggest competition in the world for our country.
Your Kerry lineage, Gary, I believe.
Kerry and Clare, yeah. Every holiday, half term, onto the coaches, onto the ferries over that rough boat ride over. That wasn't for the faint-hearted as such, but the excitement more than anything coming over for Ireland, and the freedom then is like David would tell you. We live in central London, and then suddenly you're on the farms of Clare and Kerry, and also Cork down there with my uncle and auntie as well. So fabulous times.
And David, your Galway lineage as well, as you've said on the show many times. Gary, okay, take it away from last night. What are your thoughts?
Well, really, ultimately, I was going into that game, John, and I was thinking really positively in terms of the performance against France and the way that we set up. Containment tactics, but coached really well, executed really well, and just fell agonisingly short. You know, you've got to stay in a game against a team like France. We managed to do that to such an extent that a team like France were hanging on towards the end. Didn't manage to get the points. They put huge emphasis then on this home game. And I think, and Dave will tell you this, when the draws are made as a player, you can identify games straight away which are going to be pivotal. You can look past the kind of higher profile ones where they kind of take care of themselves. But certainly this was the game that I felt Ireland had to win, and likewise Greece would have identified that they had to win against Ireland, because then it would supplement anything you were able to win against the two top seeds. That's why it was so important, coupled with the fact that we were going into this game and I felt that the team was ripe in terms of the way they were playing. Stephen had talked about adopting maybe a counter-attacking style, and I'd watched Greece play quite regularly, and certainly the last game against Lithuania at home, I just felt that they played out from the back, they were expansive, those fullbacks got in high advanced position, two centre-halves would split, and they played those balls into midfield, but I wasn't convinced that they were good enough in midfield to do that, and I thought, from that moment, I thought that is right for us to go hunting in a way that we probably done so well against Scotland last summer. I thought it was made for us. And we just did not turn up. And that is a crushing defeat, not just in isolation, because you can lose away games, we have done, but in the whole context of the 3-year reign of Stephen Kenny, that we were led to believe that this team was ready on the back of that 9-10 day build-up that they'd been together training camp, that I felt that they would really nail down the tactics. And I just didn't see any of that last night, to my utter frustration.
Could you put your finger on why? David felt maybe they could have had a game would have been better than this training camp.
Yeah, listen, I can understand in terms of the training camp, but I alluded to it last night in commentary when Rob Daly, the commentator, asked me about that game, is that but you're not going to go into tackles with your teammates the way you are in a game. You're just not going to do that for fear of hurting someone. You can try and replicate as much as you possibly want. And David alluded to it there. You can, and David was a fitness fanatic. I was as well, but you can't replicate it on your own, and you need that competitive games. And I just felt that we always felt it was tough. It was tough for us, definitely those summer internationals, in terms of bridging the gap from that the end of your domestic season to then playing. But I just felt, and Dave is summed it up perfectly there in terms of you might even have guys you regularly played throughout the domestic season, and then you've got to bridge it from 6 weeks. But we had so many guys who haven't actually played, so it was a tough challenge. You felt that maybe could they have learned from last summer against Armenia, where they got it wrong in terms of we didn't have any energy. The game petered out there, and it's just replicated it again. This one on what was ultimately the biggest game that them guys were going to play.
Are we now at a point where this project might have come to an end, Gary, in your view?
John, that's not something I ever like. I want to comment on the games. I don't want to speculate in terms of people's jobs, but I'm not like foolish enough to know that this won't come under criticism now. Of course it will. There will be people now who are led to believe that this was going to be something, and 3 years in, it just hasn't materialised. Now, we've seen young players coming through. But there are other, you've got guys like Bazzuno, Collins and Ferguson. They're going to come through in any era, regardless of the manager. They're the type, they're not really ones that you give kudos to the manager in a way that you don't really give kudos to Jack about Roy Keane, Gary Kelly coming through, or Mick McCarthy with the likes of Robbie Keane, Damien Duff, Shay Given. Them guys are coming through, and John O'Shea under Brian Kerr. They're coming through no matter what. I think where you do give him credit is the likes of the development of people like Jason Malumbi, those type of guys who have been given the opportunity, and he's worked with them, and now they're competitive at that level. So and Cullen as well, those type of guys. But I genuinely believe that group of players should be further along in terms of what they are showing us, and I don't mean in terms of the plaudits, because they've got lots of plaudits, but I just believe that squad at this moment of time need points now, not plaudits. David?
Yeah, I mean, look, just touching on, just say the game, right? So I looked at Shamrock and Bows, right? Shamrock Rovers and Bows. Their last game, they played on the 9th, yeah? and they play each other on the 23rd. Was there anything stopping Stephen arranging to play Bows or Shamrock Rovers? They got 2 weeks. Both of those have got a 2-week break, right, between their next game, if I'm right. So Gary will tell you about the importance of game time and being sharp, and because you got to be careful you don't delve too deeply into this, because you can obviously play badly, but if you come away with a point, you would take that knowing that you've played that game, you're going into Gibraltar, you could take 4 points out of these 2, which is better than obviously not getting any at Greece. So and Gary, as he said, like, fitness was really important to a lot of the lads, being fit, being able to play, ready to go. And I'm sure in the debrief of this, Stephen will look back and go, because being sharp is really important, as Gary's touched on, like training. You can train. Why couldn't they have played Shamrock or Bows in that gap? I don't, something like getting 90 minutes into some of the players, 45, 60 minutes. Some of those that don't need it, maybe Evan might have played a little bit more, a little bit less. You would individualise it around all the lads, right? But that would have been a perfect time, rather than go to Turkey, just stay home and play one of the League of Ireland teams.
On that, Dave, and we would have known this, is that ultimately what you miss more than anything in playing the games is your timing is off. It's not necessarily your fitness, it's your timing. So for me, I'm looking at that initial phase of that first 10 minutes, and we've got our 3 dominant centre halves who can't win the first contact. And that's where the timing is slightly off. And as a result of that, we concede like 6 or 7 corners. The momentum then goes to the home team. The crowd are up. I don't think it was a particularly menacing crowd as such, but nevertheless, the home team are up. But the only thing I will say about this, John, as well, and I wonder if David agrees, is that as much as we're making about fitness, the structure of the team just didn't look right. There weren't a time where they blew up after 60 minutes. I'm looking at certain scenarios. I'm thinking, why is Cullen not getting on the ball at 4? Why is he not on a half turn? Why is it more Malumbi? Why is Cullen pressing high up? There seemed to be no fluidity about that midfield. Malumbi didn't seem like he could be his usual combative self in terms of getting close to the opposition. And Smallbone, the game just passed him by. And I wouldn't be critical of him. I'm just thinking, well, where was the structure? I didn't see any patterns of play in terms of how well they were coached and how well they executed the plan against the French. I just felt that was missing more than anything. So that would be the most alarming thing for me, as opposed to the concerns about fitness.
Yeah, I think the issue with the team is if you lose to France home and away, look, they're the World Cup finalists. We haven't qualified for World Cup since you lads were there. But it's the inconsistency around losing to Luxembourg, drawing with Azerbaijan, Armenia's a year ago in the heat, a 1-0 defeat. Our Nations League performances have not been good enough, and that we slipped into this group because of that. And the only way we have a chance now of the playoff is to maybe, and it's like a 50-50 thing, we're 10th in League B, we're 26th in the Nations League rankings. The Nations League actually has a consequence on our ability to qualify for the Euros, because we're not going to qualify through the group now. So I suppose the question is, if we're going to continue with this path of Stephen Kenny, his coaching staff, and these players who are, always very being positive about it, and we've had a lot of fans, got behind the project. You have to have a sense of that we're going to be able to be consistent to get the teams around us or weaker than us to have any chance against the bigger teams. Otherwise, they're Pyrrhic victories against the Dutch and the French. And that's the worry now going forward, that if you don't have the conviction or the confidence that the consistency can be improved, then we're just drifting. And then we're into a World Cup qualifying campaign, having not been at the Euros.
Well, listen, it's a different. You're so right, John, in terms of Nation League. You think, as an example, Greece, in terms of the last 2 campaigns, they've played 12 games, they've won 8, drawn 3, lost 1. And as a result, as Gus Poyet mentioned in the build-up to the game, they had that safety net of that game as a result of that. And our Nation League record is truly woeful. It just is. You're talking about that's your weight division. You're up against your so-called equals, and we've won 2 out of 16. It's just it's shocking in terms of that. But you're right. It's such a difficult one now. I just felt that last night, that as much as the players talk about, they love it there, and I can understand that. You want to support your manager and your coaching staff as such. But if you want to show that, you need to perform on the pitch. And just those players, they overshadowed themselves last night. They were way off it.
On that consistency thing, it just seems to me there's something that can't be fixed at the moment, David.
No, I mean, I think it's not easy, but certainly when you play the likes of France and you're set up in a particular way, a particular game plan, obviously to stifle and contain, it's one way of playing. The only thing I'd say is that, we picked through the bones of all the different performances, whether it was like Lithuania or Armenia or France or this one. But just because you got, for example, going away from home, I know they're going away from it. It would have still been, I think, prudent for Stephen, for example, just to stick with the one up top, right? Like he did against France. I think going with two, as we spoke about with Adam Ida, wasn't, the right call. Just because what worked, I looked at what worked against France. You might think, well, does Stephen think he has to, or he does the same away from home against Greece? And I just didn't see a difference really in how they set up, apart from maybe you just put another one up top away from home, which was a little bit foolhardy. And I don't know what Gary thinks, but if you're not playing well, as they weren't playing from the defensive third and middle third, and you've got Evan Ferguson and you've got Adam Ida, who the ball on the floor was not his strength last night. Well, do you have to be a bit more direct and change your game and mix your game up away from home, knowing that you're not playing particularly well? I don't know what Gary thinks on that, but a lot of times, a lot of games, you go, well, look, it's not working. Right, let's squeeze up the pitch. And I didn't quite see that, say, in the little drinks break in the game. Anything changed, like in-game management? We spoke about this against France, where they got a lot of volume of set pieces, free kicks. And if you remember, France were already set almost in their own 6-yard box, knowing that Ireland were just going to launch the ball. There was nothing ever taken short. There was nothing mixed up, nothing worked down the line to change the angle, to try and get France to come out of that deep position to then maybe have a bit more a chance of getting on the end. And there was nothing in-game. And that was... I looked last night and go, right, in-game, is there anything going to change? They're not playing well playing out. Are they going to be a bit more direct, play in the opposition half for a spell? But we didn't really see that. I don't know how Gary felt on that.
There was one period on the commentary where I was getting so frustrated with the three centre-halves, not to be Collins, in terms of their body shape receiving the ball, that invariably they weren't opening their body to enable them to pass forward. They kept going back, and it was easy then for the Greeks to press us. And then when the Greek guy got injured, there was a little bit of a lull, and that was what you're talking about, Dave, in-game management. John O'Shea come to the touchline, pulls Nathan Collins over to him. Must have said something about play forward. We played forward, then the next two phases, invariably it resulted in us getting the corner from which we scored from. And it just looked like a lack of kind of leadership within the team. And I know they're an inexperienced team, but there had to be someone who said play forward and just pin them back. And we never did that well enough. And this was a concern for me, certainly in the France game, as well as we played. I never felt at any time that the sidelines were saying to Evan Ferguson, stop dropping so deep. You're not in the team to be defending deep in midfield. Get up the pitch and give the players an out ball as such. And I know against a team of France's quality, everyone has to contribute defensively, but sometimes you have to rely on your defensive units to say that we can cope with it, but we need an out ball. Likewise against Armenia, Stephen Kenny comes off after the game and said Seamus Coleman or there was no width. Seamus Coleman at right back was narrowing up so much. I'm thinking, well, tell him then. If you give instructions to Seamus Coleman, he's going to do them to the letter of the law. To show how experienced he is. So that was a concern in what is a relatively inexperienced team. Those messages have to come from the sidelines, and whether and of course Stephen Kenny's the manager, but I have no doubt the likes of John O'Shea, Dean Kiley, them guys, and Keith Andrews, experienced at this level, will be giving that message. But for some reason, it was getting lost because it didn't look like that was how they would have been building up for this game to produce that type of performance last night.
What now, though, lads? We got the Dutch home and away. We've got France away. We have to have some degree of move on. We got Greece at home. We've got maybe. No, I think
what's so frustrating about that result last night is that I think we can take something off the Dutch. I'm not convinced about them by any stretch of the imagination in terms of the new manager coming in. So whether or not you can catch them, listen, they've got good quality players. They might be able to adjust and get it sorted. But they were poor, so poor against the French. So I genuinely believe that we could take something off them, and that's why it was paramount that you got the 3 points against Greece that enabled you then, if you got anything off the Dutch, you were in with like being competitive in this group.
What now, though, David? What now? How do we get better at this? Because it just seems like it's Groundhog Day with the Irish team. You know, it's like there's hope and there's a really good performance, and then there's a really hammer blow of a defeat like last night.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's Gary touched on the inexperience. I think the average amount of caps they had in that side the other night was 17, right? So I look at Gavin. Let's go through the team, right? So from the back to the front, we got real young talent in goal and real young talent up top. Really, really inexperienced internationals. And sometimes I look at Gavin and he seems very quiet. I don't think Gavin is one of those who in-game, he's not a Shay Given yet, right? Let's hope he will become a Shay Given. Now, Gary will tell you.
Well, Shay Given weren't a Shay Given at his age either.
No,
that's the thing, isn't it? And this is the issue. But I'm countering that, Dave. Sorry to interrupt. Is that I totally agree with that. As young players, you've got so much to learn at international level. We know we made the mistakes ourselves. So listen, we're not by any stretch of the imagination claiming to be as consistent as a Roy Keane. We made loads of mistakes. But one thing I would say is that even at 18, Evan Ferguson playing for Brighton is unrecognisable from the Evan Ferguson last night. And I'm not being critical of him in terms of that. But he is playing in a well-drilled, structured team play. He knows exactly his role. I'm not sure he did last night.
Well, what I would say, though, last night, Evan and Gavin, for example, have to take on the mantle of being like, two leaders out there, as hard as it might be, considering their inexperience at international level. But they're going to have to. So, if it wasn't working, the amount of times I must have looked at, say, Gary or Shay or whatever, and it would be giving the signal, no, it's not working, get up the pitch, or we're going to aim here, or we're going to do this, or you'd have a young Robbie screaming at people or whatever it may be. Those are sort of traits that Gavin, who looks naturally quiet, and Evan are going to have to take on with this team.
Too timid.
They're going to have to. But that might not be their character, but they're going to have to. It's all right for Gavin to always be rolling the ball out, but sometimes he's obviously got to take responsibility and go, well, no, I'm going to take charge because I'm out on the football pitch and this is what I see, and it's not working for me. So right, let's all squeeze up the pitch. Let's try something different, and then be a bit more of a leader. They're only young, but they're going to have to take on that. They're going to have to take on that manner, because both of those are probably going to get 100 caps. Those players.
Listen, there's no doubt at international level, players of that quality are going to have to learn to be problem solvers. But it's a big ask, Dave, to ask a goalkeeper to totally ignore what the manager wants you to do because you feel that there are people you give that responsibility, and our group would have had, well, say that World Cup squad. There must have been 12 Premier League Championship captains within that squad. So that's not the norm, like. But it's a big ask for the goalkeeper to say, no, I don't care what you're asking me to do, I'm going to go long here. But I just think that you can pass that ball out if you're centre half in a body shape to receive it. And as soon as he did get on the half turn, notably Nathan Collins, he passed it to Matt Doherty. We got up the pitch. You could pop that ball into midfield, play little triangles. They weren't forceful enough.
The only thing is on Gavin, though, just quickly on Gavin will have learned really quickly this season how things can go very, very badly, and he has to take control of his own destiny before, well, as we saw, I know he lost his place. I don't necessarily agree with him losing his place to Alex McCarthy, but, he looked low in confidence, coming for things, and look, he made some saves last night that will give him loads of confidence. My point being, if he doesn't take charge of things like at Southampton, losing his place, likewise with Ireland, he probably won't lose his place, but it depends what Queven does. But the point being, I think both of those players at the bottom end of the pitch and the top part of the pitch, I looked at them last night and they both look very, very quiet, just very, very quiet. I know the camera only pans to them on certain occasions. I don't think it's a natural personality to be that vocal, but I looked around, it didn't seem that much communication come from a lot of the lads, but certainly the top and bottom of the pitch, it would be nice if Gavin go, no, I ain't doing that. A bit like learning from my time at Southampton, I'm going to have to do things for me. Right, boom, we're going to go long, get it up to Evan and just see if something different happens.
Conor Sullivan on YouTube, we should establish high performance academies located around the country that can send their top young players to a premium junior league, a 10-year plan properly funded with Spanish hard coaching. River Wolf on YouTube, get the League of Ireland right first, you'll then have the players for the green jersey. Junior players need to be able to access professional football in Ireland, something kids can aim for and get paid nice money for it. Liam Brady, we asked David this in the last hour. Gary was on RTTV last night, obviously after the game, and he said, this is the worst group of players that any manager's had in my lifetime. You can go through Martin O'Neill, Mick McCarthy, Steve Staunton, Jack Charlton, Brian Kerr had better players than Stephen Kenny has at the moment, but somehow you've got to mould them into a team that gets a result here, and we haven't done that. So is it almost bigger than who the manager is? Is it just the fact that we just don't have the talent at the moment? There are macro issues obviously around the fact that we don't really have an industry here of football, and that's what the FA are trying to solve, and they're new guys and they're new people with government support here. Are we just in this phase now where we just have to just suck it up a bit?
No, I don't think we have to suck it up. I think we can perform better than we did last night. I do think them players are better than what they showed last night. And the question, ultimately you would ask it, and of course Liam is so experienced in terms of all his work in and around Arsenal and that, so he knows about players and their development. You can see the pathway. He knows what he's talking about as such. But that is a bit of a sweeping statement. Essentially, listen, we're not kidding anyone here. We have had stronger squads throughout the years. That's evident by how little of our players are in the Premier League, but it's very difficult to play in the Premier League now in terms of how global that league is. It's the strongest league in the world. But I still think we're better, and I still think we're capable of more. These players, that's the question that's going to be asked now, and I think it's a legitimate one. Are these players good enough to play for him? Is this manager good enough to lead them?
Yeah. Angus is in touch as well, David, because you played in Holland. Ask the guests if it's time for Irish footballers to forget about England and travel to play first team in Europe's other leagues. I think they should. Good enough for other countries. Play European football, top coaching. Maybe do we need to be looking differently, especially with the Brexit thing, that it can't be just England or everything, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Obviously, there's something in that, but I mean. You look at some of the players, we touched on the minutes that a lot of these players have got. Those lads that started last night, I mean, trying to find minutes. I mean, Will Smallbone, for example, it's his first season at championship level. He's 23. You know, it's not like at 23 years old, I don't know, Gary might tell you, 23 years old, he's probably had 200 games under his belt. You know, so
it's difficult it's with the academies, David, isn't it? They hold these players for longer now, don't they? You don't go out and play. That's your learning curve, really, John, when you're playing for points and the pressure's on. That's not to say you don't get great coaching at these academies, because you certainly do. But I think what you probably lose in that and not playing for points is that you don't learn how to problem solve yourself. And that's a worry. Listen, Dave will probably be bashful here about this, but when Dave went to play for the Eredivisie, he came back with an absolutely totally different professionalism that even in the Ireland squad we hadn't doing. He was doing salutes to the sun and all these type of things in the morning. Drive me mad. I'd be trying to get that last 20 minutes. He's up with the curtains drawn, doing all this stretching, drinking all these potions. But he was an absolute model professional in terms of his athleticism, Dave, and stuff like that. And I think it's a great learning curve. And probably the biggest example for that, certainly, and I agree with that caller or that email that came in, is Josh Cullen. Really struggling to get his football in and around, goes to Belgium, excels there, comes back in then as a completely different player. And that's kind of at the same time that he established himself in the Ireland team. And I think it's a great. I think for a certain. I mean, Dave and I have worked a lot in the Eredivisie. I think it's a brilliant league for young players. You get an opportunity to play in what is a brilliant league. It's not. It's obviously it's a standard below the Premier League over the last few years, but it's a great opportunity, and I think any young player should do it. And I think we are seeing it more, John, aren't we? We are seeing these younger lads going out to Spain, to Holland, Germany, to Italy. Yeah, I mean, and fantastic.
You still drinking the potions, David? Are you?
Yeah, that's why I look so young. Yeah, only joking.
That's why he's still got his hair and mine's gone. Look, you see, mine's falling out from rooming with him. He was driving me mad.
Yeah, I mean, I mean the move abroad is one thing, but just coming back to this, Scott, I'm not going to leave this, right? Because I do genuinely feel when you are a lesser ability player, team, club, right? You look historically, teams that I've been involved in or whatever, you would have to be fitter, stronger, quicker, sharper than anyone else, right? And you mentioned Josh Cullen, so I'll just come back to this really quickly, because the other night you can talk about fitness, no fitness, this, that, and the other. This is a perennial problem for Stephen Kenny that he has to deal with, managing what game time players have. And I do believe you can get more out of players and those, you know, at your disposal if they have minutes under the belt or they are fitter, right? So if Ireland are going to be inferior to some teams, how are they going to make that up? Well, I'll give you one example. Josh Cullen, you just touched on him, right? Burnley are back pre-season training last week?
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Right. So, you know, images came out, and that is Burnley, who won the league or whatever, Vincent Kompany. Why are they back training? Gary will tell you they're back training because he knows they are going to be inferior to every other Premier League team, probably. And to make that up, they have to either work tactically, physically, technically, to make that gap up so that they do remain in the Premier League. How are they going to do that? They're probably not going to do it if they turn up the training the same time as everyone else. Like your standard 5-6 weeks, whatever it is, you know. So he's brought him in early.
But Dave, you know that because they won the league so comfortably, they were able to coast to those last couple of weeks knowing they were up. So they could pull back on the lads' training and invariably then say, right, they're going to have their proper 4 or 5 week break. As opposed to Luton. Luton have played deep into the summer with the playoffs. So Rob Edwards is he's going to have to give them a break, because otherwise they're going to blow up by Christmas. So it is managing that, and that's where sports science comes in. They bang the drum, don't they, sports science, as if they've invented the game. But this is their time to make sure that you get players at optimum fitness. Yeah, so that's coming back to Stephen and what his task he's got and the task he had leading up to this game, because this defeat might be pivotal in it. My point being, how you manage that 6 week period, knowing that you've got lads like Obafemi has played 100 minutes in 2 months. You know, it is so important, I think. And I'm not saying they haven't done enough or they haven't thought about it enough. But when you see, like, you know, Burnley going back into training after a few weeks or whatever it is, you know, it just shows you that, well, that's Vincent Kompany, you know, Guardiola disciple, wherever it may be. Well, he knows the importance of it.
David Connolly and Gary Breen are on Football Saturday. If you want to text us, you can 53106 at a cost of 30 cents. We're going to be back after the break with the lads just to bring us up to 5. Just Tailteann Cup quarter-finals. Limerick 14 points, Laois 12. The Gaelic Grands, Meath 111, Wexford 2 points. That is some score from Navan. Offaly 8 points, Tipperary 321. After half an hour of the preliminary quarter-final in the hurling. Our Liam Cahill's side, real dark horses for this All-Ireland. In the ladies' football earlier on, Donegal 2-10, Waterford 1-8 and Laois 2-8, Armagh 3-12 results. In the Camogie Championship results, Cork 3-19, Down 1-10 and Antrim 3-16, Offaly 1-12. Remember Rory McIlroy 8 under par, 2 off the lead of Ricky Fowler going into the third round of the US Open later. We're back after this.
Off the ball on News Talk.
The future is yours for the taking. When you become one of the 8,000 students across the island of Ireland studying with the Open University. Join the experts in distance learning on one of many internationally recognised degrees and skills-based short courses. And suddenly, your options are thrown wide open. Search OU Ireland to find out more. The Open University. The future is open.
The moment you got told the good news.
Rob, you made the panel.
When the lads added you into the group. Skipping nights out, missing the crack. Rewatching classics and learning new tricks. Being driven to the biggest game of your life by your mam. And then you finally come on in the 51st minute. It's the minor moments that last a lifetime. The Electric Ireland GAA Minor Championships. This is major.
Whirlpool, appliances you can rely on. For peace of mind, choose from Whirlpool's 5-year warranty range of laundry appliances. For more information, go online to powercity.ie. T's and C's apply.
Was that milk still in date? I was muted on that call, wasn't I? Am I after losing my car keys?
Most things we worry about never happen. And at Liberty Insurance, we want you to worry less about things that do. With great benefits like loss of keys cover for only €8 a year. So you're free to worry about literally anything else.
Did I send that to the entire group chat?
Or not worry at all. Less worry, more liberty. For our latest offers, go to libertyinsurance.ie. Liberty Seguros Compañía de Seguros y Reaseguros S.A. Trading as Liberty Insurance is authorised by the General Directorate of Insurance and Pensions Funds in Spain and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules. Loss of keys cover is an optional extra. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply.
Are you looking for an affordable alternative to a nursing home or private visiting care service? AL Home Care are the live-in care specialists that give your loved ones the independence they deserve. Contact us today at alhomecare.ie. That's alhomecare.ie.
Today, we are all pioneers, standing at the cusp of a bold new frontier, the era of electrification. At Lexus, we know this landscape well, with a luxurious all-electrified range, including the stunning ES Hybrid Saloon and the all-new award-winning RX plug-in hybrid SUV. Start your journey with us today at lexus.ie. Lexus. Experience amazing.
We all want a world where everyone feels welcome and included. But where do we even start? How about right here, at your local SuperValue? SuperValue's Pride Rainbow Laces are just €2 and are available to buy in-store now. Proceeds from the sale of the Rainbow Laces will go to support Belong To, a national organisation supporting LGBTQ+ young people across Ireland. Take action, lace up and wear with pride. Because at SuperValue, we believe community includes everyone.
At Bow Concept, we believe you deserve the best in timeless contemporary Danish design. And now it's more affordable than ever, with extraordinary savings across our furniture collection. Allow our in-store designers to tailor our Scandinavian design classics to your space. In store at Beacon South Quarter and Arnott's Henry Street. Bow Concept sale now on.
Thinking of selling a property? With Auctioneera, you can save thousands of euro. We offer a full estate agency service for a low fixed fee. Maximise the value of your property. Minimise your estate agency costs. Pay a fixed fee, not a commission, with no sale, no fee. See auctioneera.ie.
Witness greatness live from the players you love with Sky Sports from Virgin Media. Virgin Media customers get an exclusive front row seat to unmissable moments by adding Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports for just €30 a month for 6 months. That's better than half price. Be part of every game with Virgin Media. It's playtime.
6-month offer, €74 a month after offer. T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie.
Tonight's Lotto jackpot is heading for an estimated €12.5 million. Wait, €12.5 million? It's the jackpot you've always dreamed of winning. All €12.5 million of it. The National Lottery. It could be you. Play responsibly. Play for fun.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5 on Football Saturday with David Connolly and Gary Breen, both former Republic of Ireland internationals who represented our country at the World Cup in 2002. We have a text in here, 53106. John, you said Gibraltar, one of the worst teams in Europe. At this rate, will be just as bad. Things must change. We're going nowhere. We can't even beat Luxembourg, says Niall. Well, Luxembourg was at the very start of Stephen Kenny's tenure. Oisin on YouTube, Kenny started off with some big ideas, then went pragmatic with 5 at the back under the influence of Anthony Barry. We lost our way completely. PL on YouTube, whenever Kenny leaves / is fired, there's no guarantee we'll be able to secure a talented manager at all who would want it. We run the risk of going back to Trapattoni football for the next decade. Well, it's not, I suppose, our job to call for Stephen Kenny's head here today. It's up to the FAI board to decide whether he's the man to lead us into beyond the Euros, whether we qualify or not into the World Cup campaign. Maybe we can beat the Dutch at home and away. Maybe we'll beat Greece at home. Maybe it's not a lost cause just yet on the basis of one result last night, although it has been obviously a difficult start. Look, I hope we can qualify for the Euros under Stephen Kenny. It'd be great to see him try and lead us to a finals, but you have to be real about the results and the inconsistency that can't go on forever. 4 competitive wins in 23 games is not great reading. That's the difficulty, isn't it, guys? It's David, it's just it's a bit of an elephant in the room at this stage, you know?
Well, I mean, okay. Let's touch on the Gibraltar game, because they've lost 3-0 in the last 3 games, right? So you would if you say anything other than a win is enough, then you'll be fooled, because they have to beat them, right? They have to beat them. If they don't beat Gibraltar, then I imagine probably Stephen would I'm not sure he would resign, but I guess he might be forced into if they don't beat Gibraltar. So, I mean, let's just talk what may happen. So if that does happen, then Ireland might be looking for a manager. I mean, they'll have to beat Gibraltar, right? They will have to on Monday. If they don't, then I think there's, I don't think anyone would have any justification anything other than changing manager.
Yeah, I suppose it's just the reality of the conversation at the moment. It's just not.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so you can't escape it. So the lads will know they'll have to put on a really good performance. But let's say look further ahead than that, because you're touching on the players. I mean, what is going to change? There's a lot of Irish lads, obviously. I mean, Mark Sykes hasn't really played. We can touch on Mikey Johnson. What lads are going to change and have improved minutes under the belt? I mean, is Michael Obafemi going to play any more at Burnley than he did this year? Probably not.
I'm just interested because his name has been mentioned, David, Lee Carsley. What do you know about him as a coach over there? Because he's really highly rated. Yeah,
I mean, look, Lee is a great friend of Gary and myself, and fantastic, very popular, fantastic lad, and Lee has based himself in development football, right? So Lee was at Brentford. I went to see Lee when he was working at Brentford and see how they work. I went. Mark Warburton was a manager. I went into the manager's room and how he took over a little bit as an interim, but he didn't want to be a first team manager job. He then was trying to find. I tell you this, and Lee won't mind me saying this, but he was trying to find a sort of. What's the right word here? He was trying to find a mentor. He was trying to find a mentor in coaching, and he knew that I knew someone called John McDermott, who was the Tottenham Academy manager. I'd known John since I was about 10 years old, and I said, he said, could you, get me to talk to John? And I said, yeah, no problem. I'll talk to John, and so anyway, I helped to get those two together, and I think John ended up being a real mentor for Lee, and helped him with his coaching journey, and he was pivotal in sort of development football. And then obviously Lee then got the England job, 21 job, and I've been to see Lee work. I've seen him coach with England, and Gary will tell you, I mean, fantastic lad. If that became possible, he's under pressure obviously to deliver with England under 21s, but someone like Lee in the future for Ireland would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for that. I'm just curious because he's so highly rated, Gary. What his attributes?
Yeah, I can understand you asking us the question and maybe give you an insight, because I would be the same, John. If anyone's worked with a coach, I'm like, well, what's he about as such? And Dave alluded to it there. Carzo, so meticulous in terms of what he'd done. Initially started off at Coventry in a youth team there, and as Dave said there, on a few occasions he's had to take the senior team at Coventry, and at Brentford he did it as well, and I think they were so impressed with him. Then he had a spell up at Manchester City with their youth team in terms of learning under Guardiola, in terms of how they were doing things and what have you. And he's just so thorough in terms of he's on a coaching journey to be the best he can possibly be, to such an extent, and I don't think we're betraying any confidence, but he's into going into kind of other not necessarily sports, but he went up to meet the Royal Ballet in terms of their fitness levels. What are they doing to be able to produce the physiques of those incredible athletes? Although it's ballet and it's dancing, they're amazing athletes. He'd go that far to know, okay, what are your training methods, blah, blah, blah. So he is so thorough. That's not me adding to any speculation. You're just asking me what is he like as a coach. He's a brilliant coach, he really is, and he's been with young players, developing the best players in the country. So of his Manchester City team, John, Phil Foden would have been part of that. He'd been coaching him all the time and stuff, so he's around those, and as Dave alluded to there, he's playing with the best young players, or coaching with the best young players in England, and as Dave said there, very pressurised job that, because of the quality that England have in terms of coming through that production line, that they have such good players that they expect as their kind of younger age groups have been beating and winning big competitions at various age groups. So it's a huge pressure, but a massive kind of compliment to Lee that he was actually entrusted to get that job. There'd be loads of people after that job. There's such a kudos attached to it. So stepping aside in terms of whether or not we're speculating about him for that, we just give you an insight of what he is like, and he is one of the best young coaches in and around the Premier League.
Well, as well, John, I'll touch on that with Gary. If you look at Stephen's coaching staff, you would say Lee has got far more experience in coaching than any of them that is supporting.
Maybe not Dean Kiley, because he's worked so much, Dave, hasn't he, in terms of honing his craft as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, Dean,
coaching for a long while, but certainly he's far more experienced than Keith Andrews or John O'Shea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Dean obviously has been a goalkeeping coach for 20 odd years, I don't know, 50, how many years? Yeah.
Oh, you're aging him, Dave. You won't be happy with that 20-year quote. You're putting him in the mid-50s there.
But yeah, he's but certainly he's got a pedigree, you would say, and a resume.
He's got a CV, hasn't he? Yeah, he's got a very impressive CV.
And the interview process, I spoke to about it for England, was that, as it has to be, right? It has to be absolutely thorough, going through various different screening stages to get that job. So that's wonderful for Lee, former Ireland international, and he will obviously be linked to the Ireland job, I guess.
Yeah,
while he's working in these roles.
Dave, I forgot we Dave, I, Lee Carsley, quite a few others done our management diploma at Warwickshire University in terms of dealing with interviews and how you deal with the media and how you deal away from the actual coaching as such. It's how you deal with being a manager and stuff. And he passed with flying colours, didn't he?
I mean, what you would say, I think at Man City, you've got Pep Guardiola from above, basically telling everyone how to do things, even filtering down to the youth team. And I think Lee is his own man. I think he likes to. I can't talk for Lee, but Shay, I think he likes to be his own man and have a degree of autonomy within that. But with England, say for example, I think he's had a few coaches. He's been given some coaches, say, that are working with him. And maybe at some point, I'm just speculating, at some point he might want to go, well, I want to do things my way. And when I'm ready, I'll go for that job and I'll get the staff that I want. For example, if that's with Ireland, if that ever happens as a number one.
He could be a future Ireland manager. He's doing all the right things. As I said, I'm not advocating. I don't think you guys are for a change here.
But John, it just shows you the quality of coaches that we do have coming through. Like we talked about Damien Duff and the work he did as well. And of course, you've probably seen it firsthand what he's doing over in the League of Ireland. But there are other lads out there coaching and doing great, Irish lads. We've got a real presence out there now in terms, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think everybody in the country wants the Republic of Ireland manager to succeed, and there's no question about that. I certainly want Stephen Kenny to succeed. I want to turn this around in this campaign.
Listen, John, this is the one thing is that and Dave will be the same. I want Ireland players to have dreamed of playing for Ireland from a boy, and I want the Ireland manager to have dreamed of being the Ireland manager. And there's no doubt that Stephen Kenny did.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to turn around this campaign, but it's just getting to the stage now where with every defeat like this, it's just difficult because it's the route is so difficult now with the French and the Dutch, and the Dutch are in disarray, as we know. Maybe we get a win and at least 4 points out of the Dutch. Maybe we'll be Greece at home.
John, the massive frustration is it's two straight losses at the start of the campaign, third campaign for a third time. So effectively, you're giving yourself a mountain to climb to. It's literally the campaigns are over before they've even properly begun. That's the frustration, and that is why that result last night hurt so much.
Hey John, just the other thing as well is on that, Gary. So say this new investment plan, right, from the FAI, like Abbottstown is, needs to be brought up to standard. The investment in grassroots, League of Ireland, etc., etc. I'm not saying Stephen would accept a substandard training centre, right? But if you're gonna, whatever happens in the future, whoever the Ireland manager is, you want someone who comes in there and has the personality to demand high standards. As we played with, say, Roy Keane or whatever, always wanted better pitches, better facilities, better this, better that. And I'm not saying Stephen has suffered that or put up with that. But whoever comes in, you want that person to have the real personality. Go right.
Yeah, well, they have to have the money and the backing of the government and the FAI.
Well,
so look,
yeah, but say we're talking about Lee Carsey, he might be working with England, fantastic, St George's Park, Man City, the Etihad campus, wherever it may be. It might be a little bit different for Ireland, although it shouldn't. But whatever happens, you've got to keep driving those standards to keep making them better, for the players.
Just before we finish up, and as I said, look, we're hoping we can turn this around. It's just it's been a tough 24 hours for the national team. Gary, did you enjoy the season? Man City obviously winning the treble.
Oh, John, I really did. I was so impressed by Manchester City that in terms of the way they're playing, the hybrid roles of certain players. I mean, Dave and I are pretty studious in terms of watching different styles of football. They just were so impressive. I looked at Arsenal at one stage, John. I know you probably were happy enough to see how that petered out for them, but certainly in that first half performance at Anfield when they were 2-0 up, I thought they could do this. But it just shows you, when you're in the business end of the season, it's all well and good, like when everything's the sunshine and everything, but when the real pressure's on, Manchester City just went to another gear and they were thoroughly deserved treble winners. I was delighted to see them do it.
And David, any reflections from you on the Champions League final or the business end of the season? Yeah,
I mean, look, I think it's pleasing for the promoted sides that stayed up. It just shows you that maybe the sort of balance might have just shifted ever so slightly. The fact that they've
Dave, as a Watford man, do you think Luton will stay up?
No, I don't. But I think that it's. Whoever would have gone up, say, I think it's great for it's great for Luton. One, for the place, the area, the money that will go into that area. The ground will be a leveller for them. Going to play there can be difficult, but they'll add to the Premier League. And I think in that regard, I think it's sort of. I think the end of the Championship season was quite exciting, and I think it makes for an interesting upcoming Premier League. Make no mistake, Forest still in there. Fulham did well staying up. So I think in that regard, it's been obviously Sheffield United is good for us. Sheffield United going back up. A few of the Irish boys in there. So yeah, it should be good. And obviously we forget about Newcastle Champions League football. And Brighton, what a season they had. So
they were amazing, Brighton. Yeah, and also your neck of the woods, Brentford.
Yeah, Brentford were brilliant. So there's a lot of really good sort of examples of top elite level coaches at the absolute very, very top doing really, really well. And and obviously next season for Everton and Brighton I'm sure will be much like this one. It'll be fantastic.
Always, David Connolly and Kerry and Clare's Gary Breen. Thank you so much for joining us on Football Saturday to reflect on last night, and have a great summer, lads. Summer well.
Cheers, lads.
Thanks, John. Take care, mate.
Cheers, Gary. Cheers, John.
Thank you, and we got to live it there, folks. Don't forget, we're back tomorrow 1 to 7 here on News Talk. We got Neil Ewing at Breffni Park for the Gaelic football doubleheader involving Dublin and Sligo and Tyrone and Westmeath, while Colin Boyle will be in Carrick and Shannon for Galway against Armagh. There's a Sunday paper review with Shane Keegan and Kevin Byrne. We'll reflect upon further the Republic of Ireland versus Greece and look ahead to Gibraltar, the game on Monday with Stephen Doyle. We'll also preview the final round of the US Open golf. Rory McIlroy only 2 shots off the lead going into moving day this evening in California. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for that. If you missed any of OTB Football Saturday with David Connolly and Gary Breen, or our Gaelic football conversations with Finian Hanley, Cora Staunton and Kieran Donaghy, you can find the podcasts on the Off the Ball section of the Go Loud Network, or be sure to listen back wherever you get your pods. Before we just go, we'll just give you some score updates just before we go, and just to let you know that England in the Ashes 230 for 5, they've reduced Australia to now England ahead by 163 runs, and the game this evening is really about the golf, isn't it? Rory McIlroy 2 off the lead of Ricky Fowler going into the third round. Hopefully now by tomorrow evening he will be the US Open champion and win a first major in 9 years. Hope you enjoyed the conversation today. We'll speak soon. Bye bye.
Give him a ball and he out of grass. He'll give you a move for the perfect pass. Give him a ball and he out of space. He'll give you a move with godly grace. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. Tonight's your man.